Victor Wembanyama and Charles Barkley keep finding themselves in the headlines together. What started as criticism has slowly turned into something much bigger, with Barkley repeatedly taking shots at the Spurs star and Wemby refusing to stay quiet. Now, the tension between them appears to be reaching a new level. Let me catch you up. Long before Wembanyama ever stepped into a playoff arena, Charles Barkley was already drawing his line in the sand. Back in early 2025, the headlines were everywhere. The New York Times, Sports Business Journal, the Washington Times, publications stacking bylines on top of one another, all saying some version of the same thing. Victor Wembanyama is becoming the face of the NBA. The coverage wasn't subtle, it wasn't quiet. It was the kind of collective media declaration that tends to build a player's legend before the player himself has had a chance to earn it. And Charles Barkley was watching, and he was annoyed. When the topic came up on TNT's tip-off show, Barkley didn't mince a single word. He had been annoyed just sitting around watching other pundits casually hand Wemby the title. Not angry, not furious, just annoyed. The specific kind of annoyed that a man feels when he thinks something is so obviously wrong, that the fact people keep saying it out loud becomes the problem. You don't give anybody the face of the league, Barkley said, flat and direct. His argument wasn't about Wembanyama specifically, at least not on the surface. It was about principle. Barkley's entire framework for greatness is rooted in the idea that the throne has to be seized, not gifted, not workshopped by media committees. Seized. He rattled off names like a challenge. Magic Johnson took it, Larry Bird took it, Shaq took it, Kobe took it, LeBron took it, Steph took it. Every single one of them walked into the building and made the league bend to their will through sheer force of performance and presence. And in Barkley's view, Wemby at that point had not done that, not yet. Shaquille O'Neal, sitting right there beside him, largely agreed. He pointed out that other young stars, Ja Morant, Luka Doncic, Anthony Edwards, were all thinking something different. The title wasn't going to be handed to anyone. You had to go take it. Kenny Smith added that Anthony Edwards himself was out there. They're thinking something very different about who should be. Running things, the entire inside the NBA crew was aligned on this one. Media coronations are not the same as earned thrones. Now, it's worth understanding what was happening in Wemby's world at that precise moment, because the timing of this particular debate made it feel even sharper. Victor Wembanyama was diagnosed with deep vein thrombosis, a blood clot in his shoulder, and missed the rest of the 2024-25 season. So here was the media crowning him the face of the league while he was literally sitting out. Barkley's whole point crystallized. The conversation about Wemby's ceiling was outpacing his actual production. And for a man like Charles Barkley, who never won a championship and whose entire Hoff case rests on what he took by force, that gap was intolerable. The thing about Barkley's face of the league argument is that it wasn't a personal attack on Wembanyama. He wasn't saying the kid wasn't special. He wasn't saying the potential wasn't real. He was saying the process matters. He was saying you don't skip the line. You don't inherit a throne. And when the media keeps loudly handing the crown to someone before they've fought their way through the fire, it doesn't just cheapen the title. It puts a target on the kid's back. But there's also something else happening underneath that critique. Something worth sitting with. Barkley himself, one of the greatest power forwards in NBA history. A man who dominated his era and turned the Phoenix Suns into a championship contender. Never won a ring, and his entire post-playing life has been built on the belief that performance is what matters. Numbers, games, battles, not marketing campaigns and media hype cycles. So when he sees a 20-year-old being positioned as the inevitable heir while still on the injured list, something in him pushes back hard. That's where the Wemby Barkley story begins. Not with a shouting match, not with a public call-out, just a man on TV expressing the kind of principled frustration that would become a recurring theme throughout one of the most contested postseason runs in recent NBA memory. By the time the 2025-26 playoffs rolled around, the stakes would be a whole lot higher, and Barkley would have a whole lot more to say. But let's not skip ahead too fast, because between that early 2025 debate and the 2026 playoffs, something important happened. Wembanyama came back, and when he did, he came back loud. His third NBA season, the one that was supposed to be derailed by injury and overshadowed by recovery, became arguably the most talked about individual campaign in years. He was healthy. He was locked in. Shaquille O'Neal had previously ranked him at number 31 on a top 50 players list, saying you're good but you're not. good enough, hoping the snub would fire him up. And Wemby, for his part, seemed to use every piece of outside criticism as fuel. By the time the Spurs punched through to the Western Conference semifinals and then kept rolling, the storyline around Barkley and Wemby had quietly shifted. The first chapter had been Barkley, dismissing the hype. The second chapter was going to be much more intense, because now there were actual playoff games on the table. Now there was something real to evaluate, and Charles Barkley, true to form, was not going to let the moment pass without speaking his mind. The Spurs drew the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. OKC, the reigning NBA champions, the team that had dismantled everyone in their path the year before, were not going to just let Wembanyama walk through them. And when the series started, and the Thunder got physical, and fans lost their minds about what they were seeing, Barkley reached for the microphone. And what he said next is what truly turned this story into a saga. It's important here to understand what OKC's strategy actually looked like, because the way it's been described online and on some broadcasts, you'd think Isaiah Hartenstein was out there carrying a baseball bat. The truth, per the game tape, is more complicated. The Thunder, after getting carved up in Game 1, instructed Hartenstein to clamp down on Wembanyama, play him physically in the paint, crowd his catches, cut off his driving lanes, and force his teammates to beat them instead. It was a deliberate tactical shift, and it worked well enough to tie the series. Fans watching at home were furious. Social media erupted. Pundits on television started using words like dirty and dangerous. And sitting there watching it all was Charles Barkley, getting visibly more irritated with every passing take. He'd been a physical player his entire career. He understood the game at the level of a man who'd thrown bodies around for 15 years in the NBA. And what he was watching, in his estimation, did not qualify as dirty, not even close. What it qualified as in Chuck's world was just basketball, hard, grinding playoff basketball, the kind that separates the contenders from the pretenders. And his frustration wasn't with the Thunder, it was with the people describing what the Thunder were doing. That distinction is the whole key to understanding where the Wemby-Barkley tension lives. It lives in the space between what the game actually is and what people think it should be for. Wembanyama specifically, Barkley doesn't think Wemby deserves special treatment. He thinks Wemby deserves to be tested. And he was about to say so in the most Charles Barkley way imaginable. Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals, the Oklahoma City Thunder win it 122-113. Hartenstein's expanded role helps hold Wembanyama to 21 points, 17 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 blocks. Respectable numbers on paper, but a far cry from his 41-point, 24-rebound dominance in Game 1. The Thunder tie the series, and the story everywhere isn't about OKC's adjustment. It's about how physical they've been. The internet is burning down. TV analysts are doing their thing. And Barkley, sitting in the studio, has had enough. What he says on Saturday's edition of Inside the NBA becomes an instant soundbite. He doesn't ease into it. He doesn't build up to it. He starts with a sarcastic prayer. I think we all need to pray for Wemby, because he can't play too many minutes. They're gonna kill him out there, he says. Kenny Smith immediately looks at him like he's lost his mind, genuinely unsure if Chuck is serious. And Barkley confirms that no, he is absolutely not serious. He is in fact mocking the entire premise of the poor Wemby narrative that had taken over sports TV. Then he unleashes these people. They are pissing me off, he says. I'm watching the whole game. They ain't playing dirty. He dismisses the fouls as some of the softest he's ever seen in his life. He calls out the people on TV, making the situation sound like a mugging. And then, just when you think he might stop, he delivers the line that gets clipped and shared and debated for days afterward. You people at home and on TV talking about they were physical with Victor Wembanyama. Y'all need to stop it, he says. I've been kissed harder. Just 4 words. I've been kissed harder. Coming from a man who played physical basketball for 15 years, who was built like a small tank, who was double and triple, teamed his entire career. Those 4 words carry a specific kind of authority. It's not just trash talk. It's a point of reference. A man who actually experienced the rough edges of the NBA, saying that what Wemby was experiencing didn't register on his scale. Now, to be fair, NBC Sports' Reggie Miller had noted during broadcast that Hartenstein was using all of his body weight on Wemby, and there were legitimate questions being raised about the officiating, specifically whether the referees were letting things go that should have been called. That's not a manufactured controversy. The physical style of play had largely gone unchecked by the referees, prompting many around the NBA to question the officiating. So the people Barkley was firing at weren't entirely making things up. They were watching something real and describing it in real time. But Barkley's counter-argument is grounded in something deeper than just the foul calls. His point is philosophical. If you're going to be the face of the league, if you're going to be the player everyone else defers to, the one who gets the magazine covers and the endorsements and the legacy conversations, then you need to be able to handle what every other elite player before you has handled. You need to earn it on the floor, not ask for the referees to protect you, not rely on public sympathy. Go deal with the physicality and dominate anyway. That's the test. And in Barkley's mind, Wemby had not passed it yet. And the thing is, the series itself was giving him ammunition. Because while Game 1 was a Wemby masterpiece, Game 2 showed that Oklahoma City's layered help defense, relentless pressure, and elite physicality could at least slow portions of San Antonio's offense. That's not a fabrication. That's what happened. The Thunder had a real defensive answer. And when a team finds a real defensive answer, the right conversation is, how does Wemby respond? Not, are the rules being followed correctly? Barkley wants the first conversation. He's allergic to the second one. The Spurs won Game 7 of that series. 7 hard, grinding games. After a grueling 7-game series against OKC, the Spurs secured the win and moved to their first NBA Finals appearance since 2014. And Wembanyama, drained, relieved, overwhelmed, did something that drew its own wave of reaction. He cried. He stood on the court after one of the most physically demanding series of his young life and let the emotion pour out of him. And the conversation split right down the middle. Some people loved it. Some people thought it was premature. There were still 4 more wins needed. Kevin Garnett, who had cried himself after his own 2008 championship, took exception, feeling that the moment for tears comes after you win it all, not before. But Barkley defended him, full stop, no hesitation. To see his emotion, crying the way he was, I'm like, man, this is so special. It's so awesome, he said on Mad Dog Sports Radio, and that right there is what makes this whole dynamic between these two men so layered and genuinely interesting. Barkley isn't a simple Wemby critic. He's not a hater. He's something more specific than that. He's a demanding evaluator who also has real affection for what the kid represents. He just refuses to let that affection soften the standard. Barkley stated the 2026 finals matchup was great for the league. You got the Knicks in the finals. I'm so glad we're going to get to do the games. But for Adam Silver, this is a dream matchup. This is going to be great, man. I cannot wait to watch. He was excited, genuinely excited. And the reason he was excited was because the next chapter of Wemby's story was going to be written against the New York Knicks, a veteran team with size, experience, and Madison Square Garden in their back pocket. A real test, the kind Barkley believes is necessary. So heading into the NBA Finals, the Barkley-Wemby relationship sits at an interesting place. Barkley has been skeptical of the hype. He's pushed back on the physicality narrative. He's defended Wemby's emotions. He's called out other analysts for being too soft on the kid. And now, with the whole world watching, the Spurs take on the Knicks. He's about to have more material than he knows what to do with. The finals would test everything, and Barkley was going to have front row seats and a live microphone. Wembanyama, for his part, had already made his own position on emotions clear. He'd said he refuses to carry the burden of having to hide my emotions. He'd shown that side of himself before. A regular season comeback against the LA Clippers, a 25-point deficit that the Spurs climbed out of, and Wemby refusing to pretend he wasn't feeling everything in real time. That's who he is. Transparent, present, genuinely invested in every possession, in a way that reads as almost unusual for someone his age. And that combination, the raw emotion, the spectacular highs, the occasional vulnerability is exactly what makes him both magnetic and complicated for a pundit like Barkley to handle. Because when Wemby is at his best, Barkley can't help but marvel. And when Wemby struggles, Barkley can't help but notice and say something about it loudly. The finals, as it turned out, would give him plenty of both kinds of moments, starting with a halftime that became one of the most talked about television segments of the entire postseason. Game 1 of the 2026 NBA Finals, San Antonio, Texas, Frost Bank Center, the Spurs and the Knicks meeting on basketball's biggest stage. And Wembanyama, who had carried this franchise through a murderous Western Conference gauntlet, who had cried tears of relief after beating OKC, was now being asked to perform on the grandest stage in the sport. The whole world wanted to see what he would do. Charles Barkley was watching every possession, and the Knicks, the veteran Knicks, the team that had been battle-tested through their own playoff gauntlet, had a plan. New York's size and physicality was immediately noticeable. Karl Anthony Towns had been one of the league's most productive big men all season, and the Knicks deployed him in a way designed specifically to make Wembanyama uncomfortable, taking the fight to him on both ends, refusing to let him find easy rhythm, making every catch a negotiation and every post-entry a war. The New York Knicks won Game 2 of the NBA Finals 105-104, taking a 2-0 lead. But it was what happened at halftime that everyone was still talking about days later, because Charles Barkley, watching Wemby score just 7 points on 2 of 4 shooting in the first half, with 5 rebounds, 1 block, 1 steal, and 2 turnovers, was not going to sit on that and say nothing. The numbers were right there. They weren't a narrative, they were facts, and Barkley at halftime unloaded. Wemby's in shock right now. It's probably been a long time since he got his ass kicked like this, Barkley said on Inside the NBA. Then, he added the line that immediately became the post-game talking point. He's going to own the league soon, but right now, Big KAT is just taking his ass to the woodshed. Plain and simple, he wasn't being cruel. He wasn't being dismissive of Wemby's potential. He was being direct about what was happening on the court in real time and what was happening, Karl Anthony Towns defending him so effectively that Wemby looked, in Barkley's words, like he got his ass kicked, was genuinely visible on the tape. Barkley said Wembanyama looked flustered in the first half and was throwing the ball all over the place. And the criticism landed because the numbers backed it up completely. It wasn't a hot take dressed up as analysis, it was analysis that happened to be uncomfortable to hear. Now, the Spurs were trailing by just 1 point at the end of the game. It was a one-possession battle down the stretch. Wembanyama had a critical turnover and foul that helped give the Knicks the lead for good in the final seconds of the fourth quarter. And so the criticism had weight, not just because of the halftime numbers, but because of how the game ended. Online, fans split instantly. Some agreed with every word out of Chuck's mouth. Others pointed to the broader context that Wemby had come back in the second half, scored 22 points after halftime, and nearly dragged the Spurs back from the edge. He's going to own the league soon, but right now he's being owned, Barkley had said, and the second half of that game was, in many ways, both parts of that sentence happening on the same court at the same time, because the comeback Wemby put together in the second half was not nothing. After scoring just 7 points before halftime, he erupted for 22 second-half points and finished with 29 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 4 blocks in 40 minutes. He attacked more decisively, found better angles, pushed the Spurs into position to steal a win after, looking second best for long stretches. The comeback fell short by a single point, but the response itself told a story that whatever version of Wemby Barkley was critiquing at halftime had been replaced by a different one by the fourth quarter. The learning curve was real, and it was happening in real time, within the same game. By the time the series shifted to Madison Square Garden with the Spurs trailing 2-0, the pressure on Wembanyama was suffocating. The Knicks had home court, they had momentum, and they had Towns, who had turned this series into something that raised genuine questions about whether the kid was ready for this moment. Barkley, still watching from the studio, hadn't pulled back at all. In fact, he escalated. "I saw Some idiots and fools on TV talking about the MVP so far," he said, taking aim at the segment of basketball Twitter that was already spinning. The narrative that Wemby deserved Finals MVP consideration, despite being on the losing side. That take didn't last long around Barkley. He pointed out that Wemby was averaging 27.5 points, 10.5 rebounds, and 2 blocks on 40.5% shooting, solid numbers on their face, but numbers being produced in a series the Spurs were losing. And for Barkley, the bottom line has always been the bottom line. Meanwhile, the series itself was developing its own separate storyline, one that would drag Wembanyama's character and on-court conduct into the conversation in a way that nobody had fully anticipated, because the physical battles weren't just happening in the paint through legal screens and body positioning. Wemby was getting physical back, and not always in ways that the rulebook could look the other way on. Earlier in the playoffs against Minnesota in the Western Conference semifinals, Wembanyama had been ejected for a flagrant 2 foul after elbowing Naz Reid above the shoulders. It was immediate, it was jarring, and it started a conversation about whether Wemby's physicality, which fans and analysts had been discussing defensively as something being done to him, was actually something he was doing too. The NBA chose not to suspend him for that incident, but the foul points were on his ledger into the finals. The scrutiny only intensified. In Game 3, the league declined to upgrade Wembanyama's shove on Jalen Brunson, despite admitting a foul was missed. Then in Game 4, he was assessed a flagrant, one for an elbow to Karl Anthony Towns' chin. That put him at 3 flagrant points for the postseason, just one away from an automatic 1-game suspension. And with the Spurs already in a 3-1 hole, one wrong move could have effectively ended the series before it started. That's when Draymond Green stepped in. And when Draymond Green steps into a conversation about dirty play, the man who has arguably been ejected more times than anyone in his generation, it has a certain irony built right into it. On his podcast, Green called Wembanyama a bit dirty, connecting it to a broader claim he'd been making for years, that European players generally play with a different edge. He made the distinction between dirty and what he called his own style, which he described as, "I will mess you up," but not dirty. Different categories in his view. He probably should be suspended at some point, or should have been already, but he's been shown a lot of grace, Green said. And then in a moment that reads almost like self-awareness, he added that he didn't want series decided by suspensions. "We want to see Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs versus the New York Knicks, not the Spurs sans Victor versus the Knicks." So even the man calling him dirty was acknowledging the obvious. Wemby is the show. The finals are better with him on the court. And the NBA, acutely aware of that commercial reality, was threading a very specific needle. Social media, predictably, came for Draymond immediately. The most frequently ejected prominent player of his era calling someone else dirty was not going to land without pushback. Draymond, who knows better than most how postseason discipline can shape a series, seemed genuinely unbothered by the irony, defending his position that there's a meaningful difference between being physical and being dirty, and that the distinction matters whether you buy that argument or not. He made it loudly and repeatedly. Game 4 of the 2026 NBA Finals is going to be a story people tell for a long time. Not just because of what happened on the court, though, that was extraordinary. Not just because of the flagrant foul or the controversial screens, but because the Knicks did something genuinely historic. New York overturned a 29-point deficit to take a 3-1 series lead, a 29-point comeback in the finals, to go up 3-1 against a team that had Wembanyama. That's not supposed to happen. And Wemby, who had a flagrant foul and several other contested moments in that game, finished it on the wrong side of all of it. But the story of that night didn't end when the buzzer went off. It continued outside the arena because as Wembanyama walked into his hotel Knicks, fans pelted the 22-year-old superstar with eggs, actual eggs. Someone or multiple people had gone home, retrieved eggs and come back specifically to throw them at a 22-year-old basketball player. It is a sentence that sounds like satire. It was not satire. It happened. Charles Barkley, whatever his complicated relationship with Wemby criticism might be, did not hesitate for a single second on this one. What kind of scumbag takes 3 eggs to throw at Wemby? Just when you think New Yorkers can't be more punkish, he said on the air. And then Kenny Smith called those people real cowards before Barkley went, further pointing out that what made it especially absurd is that the Knicks had actually won the game, you know? What bothered me the most about it? They actually won the game, he said. That's when you know you're a punk. It's a meaningful moment in the Barkley-Wemby arc because it clarifies something important. Barkley's criticism of Wemby is not rooted in dislike. It's not personal animosity. It's not the behavior of someone who resents the kid's talent or wants to see him fail. When someone crosses a real line, when fans throw physical objects at a player, Barkley defends him without hesitation. His standards are consistent. He expects Wemby to be held to the same standard as every great player before him, and he expects people around the game to treat Wemby with the basic dignity any human being deserves. Those are two completely separate things in his mind. The Spurs went to Madison Square Garden for Games 3 and 4 down 0-2 and managed to win Game 3, Wemby delivering in the hostile New York environment in a way that gave San Antonio a pulse. Following Wembanyama's stellar Game 3 performance, the Spurs got a new lease of life, but Game 4 undid all of it in the most dramatic possible way. That 29-point comeback was the kind of gut punch that doesn't just change a series, it changes the energy around a series. Now the Spurs needed to win 3 straight games, starting with a trip back to San Antonio for Game 5 against a team that had just done something no one thought was possible. And throughout all of this, the egg incident, the flagrant falls, the dramatic momentum swings, the conversation about Charles Barkley and Wemby never went away. It just kept finding new angles. Barkley defending him from the egg throwers. Barkley calling out the poor Wemby crowd. During the OKC series, Barkley saying at halftime of Game 2 that Towns was taking him to the woodshed. Every single one of those moments lived on social media simultaneously, getting recirculated, getting debated, getting dropped into arguments about whether Chuck was, and being caught on camera laughing in Mitchell Robinson's direction during a heated moment. The full picture of who Wemby is in competition, emotional, physical, prideful, sometimes undisciplined, was now in full public view. And Charles Barkley, who had been processing all of it in real time on national television, had more than enough material for the next chapter. After the final buzzer in Game 5, Victor Wembanyama did eventually show up at the podium. And what he said there, stripped of the walk-off controversy, stripped of the handshake line drama, stripped of every external layer, was something that resonated even with his sharpest critics. He agreed with Spurs head coach Mitch Johnson's assessment that the team simply was not ready to win a title. We make too many mistakes. I make too many mistakes, he said. Not deflections, not excuses, just a direct acknowledgement of where he is. In the process, he acknowledged that, despite being just 22, it's extremely difficult to accept that the road to a championship takes years, noting that Michael Jordan and LeBron James took 7 and 9 years respectively to win their first titles. That's not a kid in denial. That's a kid who understands the full scope of what he's trying to accomplish and is choosing to sit with the weight of it rather than look for someone else to blame. I'm not running away from that, he said. I'm using that to fuel me. And that's the sentence that matters most when you try to make sense of the entire Barkley-Wemby saga, because everything Barkley has been saying from the face of the league debate in February 2025 through the OKC physicality wars, through the halftime evisceration in Game 2 of the finals has essentially been a version of the same argument. This kid isn't ready yet, and the people around him need to stop pretending otherwise. And now, at the podium after losing his first finals, Wemby is saying the same thing himself. Not because Barkley told him to, because the experience told him to. Barkley had defended him from the OKC dirty narrative. He'd called that Barkley was genuinely excited about the Knicks-Spurs matchup, calling it a dream matchup for Adam Silver and saying he couldn't wait to watch. He'd called the egg throwers cowards. He'd celebrated Wemby's tears after winning the conference finals, and he'd also without hesitation said on live national TV that Wemby was in shock and getting his ass kicked. Both things are true. Both things came from the same man in the same postseason. That's not contradiction. That's what honest evaluation looks like when you actually care about what you're watching. The beef between Wemby and Barkley is real in the sense that their public relationship has generated real tension, real soundbites, and real debate. But it isn't a feud in the traditional sense. No diss tracks, no direct call-outs, no public statements from Wemby aimed back at Chuck. Wembanyama's position throughout has been one of quiet determination, refusing to hide his emotions, refusing to deflect blame, refusing to pretend the losses didn't hurt. That's its own kind of response. Not verbal, not contentious, just performance, just showing up, just being exactly who he is, and letting the results speak eventually. What's sitting out there now, on the other side of this 2026 finals loss, is a question that's going to define the next several years of NBA conversation. Can Wembanyama do what Barkley is demanding? Can he stop waiting for the recognition and go take it? Wembanyama is the Spurs' best player, their defensive anchor, and their main hope for competing at the highest level. The foundation is real. The talent is genuinely otherworldly. The question is whether the mental and tactical refinements that come with hard experience, the kind you only get from losing big, from getting elbowed by referees' rulings, from watching a 29-point lead evaporate, from not getting the handshake line right, will accelerate into something special, or whether the gap between what Wemby is and what he could be stays wide enough for people like Barkley to keep making their case. Because here's what the 2026 postseason made undeniably clear. San Antonio, led by double digits in every single game of the finals, and still lost. The series 4-1. That's not a talent gap, that's a clutch gap, an experience gap, a championship IQ gap, the kind that takes years of hard playoff basketball to close. And Wembanyama himself made it plain. I want to win so bad. It's like my life depends on it. He said after the conference finals win, the fire is there. The desperation is there. The talent has never been in question. The 2026 finals just drew the map of everything that still has to be built on top of all of that. And Charles Barkley, he'll be back on TV next season. He'll have takes. He'll have standards. He'll defend Wemby when people treat him unfairly, and he'll light him up when the performance demands it. Because that's who he is. That's the only consistent thing about the Barkley-Wemby dynamic. That Barkley will always tell you exactly what he thinks, regardless of who he's evaluating or what the room wants to hear. And when a 22-year-old with Wembanyama's gifts finally does put all of it together, when he stops, leading by 29 and losing by 4, when he makes the right read, in the final 30 seconds of a finals game, when he doesn't walk off the court, you already know exactly how Charles Barkley is going to react. He's going to say he earned it. He's going to say he took it. And he's going to say it was about time. References: Charles Barkley annoyed hearing Victor Wembanyama called face of the league. Awful. Announcing, awfulannouncing.com, team, T Sports, Charles Barkley, annoyed face league Victor Wembanyama.html. Charles Barkley annoyed Victor Wembanyama face of the league, Fox News. Foxnews.com, sports Charles Barkley annoyed Victor Wembanyama being given face, league title, Charles Barkley had. Strong take on Victor Wembanyama, NBA face of the league talk. SayIC.com, such NBA's Charles Barkley, strong take Victor Wembanyama face of the league talk. Charles Barkley absolutely unloads on poor Wemby narrative. Yahoo Sports, sportsjuuo.com. Article/Charles Barkley absolutely unloads poor 155,134,524.html. Charles Barkley rails against TV clowns over Wembanyama takes. AOL, Mirror. AOL.com's writer argles, writer RAOL.com's writer argle 1000.html. Charles Barkley sounds off about clowns on TV over Wembanyama narrative. Awful. Awfulannouncing.com's NBA. Charles Barkley blasts Victor Wembanyama Thunder narrative.html. I've been kissed harder. Charles Barkley. On Isaiah Hartenstein's defense. Heavy.com Sports NBA. San Antonio Spurs. Charles Barkley Victor Wembanyama kissed harder. I've been kissed harder. Barkley mocks Thunder physicality narrative. Basketball Network. Basketballnetwork.net. Latest news. Charles Barkley says people are overreacting to Isaiah Hartenstein's defense on Wembanyama. Charles Barkley sounds off on Wemby narrative in Thunder series. Yahoo Sports, sportsjubyo.com. Articles, Charles Barkley sounds off Victor 141,516,090 out HTML. Charles Barkley mocks physical Thunder narrative. Pro Football Network, profootballnetwork.com, NBA/Charles Barkley Victor Wembanyama narrative, May 24, 2026. It was special. Barkley defends Wemby's emotional WCF reaction. Yahoo Sports Joyoa.com. Articles special. Charles Barkley defends Victor 23,028,550.html. Charles Barkley eviscerates Wemby after Karl Anthony Towns dominates him. Yahoo Sports, sportsjubyo.com. Articles, Charles Barkley eviscerates Wemby, Karl 21,855,024.html. Victor Wembanyama proved Charles Barkley's vicious halftime take wrong. Yahoo Sports, sportsgetuo.com. Articles, Victor Wembanyama proved Charles Barkley 51,111,329.html. Victor Wembanyama proved Charles Barkley's vicious halftime take wrong. Yardbarker.com set NBA. Articles, Victor Wembanyama proved Charles Barkley's vicious halftime take wrong. Loke despite losing game 2 Vits Knix per second 1766443924290. Charles Barkley critiques Wembanyama's struggles in NBA Finals Game 2. Yahoo Sports, sportsjubyo.com. Articles / Charles Barkley critiques Victor Wembanyama's 192,405,952.html. Charles Barkley doesn't hold back on Wembanyama's subpar NBA Finals. Clutchpoints.com's NBA says San Antonio Spurs. Spurs news. Charles Barkley doesn't hold back Spurs Victor Wembanyama's subpar NBA Finals. Charles Barkley rips Knicks fans as cowards after Wembanyama egg incident. Yardbarker.com's NBA articles / Charles Barkley rips Knicks fans as cowards after ugly Victor Wembanyama incident, says 1775943952791. Charles Barkley blasts New York cowards who egged Wembanyama. Yahoo Sports, sports.yoa.com. Articles, Charles Barkley blasts York cowards 11,155,014.html. Barkley rips Knicks fans as cowards after Wembanyama incident. Total Pro Sports, totalprosports.com's NBA says San Antonio Spurs. Barkley slams Knicks fans after Victor Wembanyama incident. Draymond Green calls Wembanyama a bit dirty. Heavy.com Sports NBA. Golden State Warriors. Draymond Green Victor Wembanyama bit dirty. Draymond Green calls Wembanyama a bit dirty. Newsweek.com Sports NBA. Draymond Green calls Spurs Victor Wembanyama a bit dirty amid NBA Finals. 12,069,994. Draymond Green suggests Wemby's tactics are a bit dirty. Bleacher Report. Bleacherreport.com. Articles, 25,440,175. Draymond Green suggests Wemby's tactics are bit dirty after controversial Spurs Knicks moments. Victor Wembanyama should be suspended at some point, says Draymond Green. Yahoo Sports Joyoa.com. Articles, Victor Wembanyama suspended point, says 150,452,381.html. Victor Wembanyama should be suspended at some point. Yardbarker.com/NBA. Articles, Victor Wembanyama should be suspended at some point, says Draymond Green amid 2026 NBA Finals first 1766443950221. Wembanyama is a dirty player. Draymond Green's accusations, Dunkest.com's and NBA News 241,359. Wembanyama is a dirty player. Draymond Green's accusations. Draymond Green reminded of shenanigans after chiming in on Wembanyama ejection. 105.3 RNB 1053 RNB.com 6,256,653 Draymond Green Victor Wembanyama ejection reactions. Draymond Green rejects dirty label points to Wembanyama. Clutchpoints.com's NBA J Golden State Warriors. Was Warriors News Draymond Green dirty label points victor. Wembanyama European players Warriors vet. Draymond Green offers Wembanyama a lesson in ethics. Fox News, Outkick FoxNews.com, Outkick Sports, Warriors vet. Draymond Green offers NBA Finals sore loser Victor Wembanyama lesson ethics. Victor Wembanyama responds to NBA Finals defeat after classless first reaction. The Mirror, TheMirror.com sports basketball Victor Wembanyama NBA Finals Spurs 1,885,961 Charles Barkley references Rockets 1995 title in defense of Wembanyama. SIC.com Zen NBA Rockets on-see Charles Barkley references Rockets 1995 title in defense of Spurs Victor Wembanyama. A timeline of Charles Barkley's big old women beef with San Antonio. Hot 109. Hot1009.com's 4,476,552 Charles Barkley San Antonio Spurs beef Shaquille O'Neal snubs Wembanyama. Sportskeeda.com's basketball news I hope upsets him Shaquille O'Neal sends Victor Wembanyama blunt message snubbing top 30 players. Shaquille O'Neal downplays Wembanyama's 40-point display. Sportskeeda.com starts basketball news generational hater Shaquille O'Neal riles up fans after downplaying Victor Wembanyama's emphatic 40-point display. Anthony Edwards on Wembanyama's ejection. Yahoo Sports. https://sports.yahoo.com's Writerlic's locker play. Charles Barkley sounds off Victor 141,516,090.html.